Sifuna, Edwin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, let me say that I hold a very different view on the matter that is before the House this morning. Mr. Speaker, two specific problems I have with the bill as presented before us in sabbatical 2B and C. Mr. Speaker, when you go to determine who the stakeholders in any institution are, a very cursory research of what the word stakeholder means is that it is a party that has an interest in an institution and can either affect or be affected by the business of that institution. Mr. Speaker, there are many stakeholders in the political process. Of course, every single citizen has an interest in the operations of the IEBC and in the elections and politics of this country. But you have to identify the primary stakeholders and the secondary stakeholders. I would be urging this House to consider that, in fact, when it comes to the business of the IEBC, the primary stakeholders are the political actors, and especially those represented through their various political parties. I will give an example, Mr. Speaker. There were certain controversies at the onset of Christianity that needed to be settled. For instance, the divinity of Christ, whether Christ is divine or whether he is to be made, or even the criteria to be used in settling the Gospels, which books were going to go into what is known today as the Bible, Mr. Speaker. There was convened something called the Council of Nicaea. This Council of Nicaea, Mr. Speaker, was fully composed of bishops and leaders in the Christian faith to settle these controversies. Another example, if you go to football, Mr. Speaker, the leadership of the Federation of Kenyan Football, the FKF, is determined by the clubs that play the league, Mr. Speaker. Those are the primary stakeholders. If you look at the leadership of, say, Rugby Kenya, it's decided or selected by the rugby teams that are part of the league. What I'm trying to say, Mr. Speaker, is that for us as political players, and especially the political parties, I would be very, very hesitant to limit the number of slots that are allocated to the political players in this particular bill. Mr. Speaker, my biggest concern, I know the majority leader raised concern about the question of LSK. Many of these institutions interact with the law in their daily operations. My colleagues who are with us in the Mwangaza impeachment committee will bear me witness that they saw benefit of having at least one lawyer in that particular committee. There is some value that we bring, especially when the team and the institution has to interact with the law. Mr. Speaker, my biggest problem actually with this bill is with the Public Service Commission. Whose interests does the Public Service Commission represent? If you look at the composition of the Public Service Commission, it is a chair, vice chairperson, and 7 other members appointed by the president with the approval of the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, if there is a partisan organization that can only serve to represent the interests of one side of the political divide, it's the Public Service Commission. I would be more inclined to return the one slot, Mr. Speaker, to the Parliamentary Service Commission so that at least the minority side can get a slot, the majority side can get a slot. We get the PPLC, which is also representative of the political parties in this country that have the majority representation and the minority representation to get a slot each. These things we are not doing because I am in ODM today, Mr. Speaker. There is no problem with me looking for a seat on any other political parties. But we are not doing this because I intend to run again in 2027. It is very possible, Mr. Speaker, that we can set an objective criteria that will affect or bring about some level of balance in the manner in which these panels are constituted. So that even if the Senator Thang'Wa from Kiambu, and we're having discussions with him, is convinced to join ODM and run on ODM in 2027, he will still find a representative of ODM on that selection panel. And even if I were to cross over, Mr. Speaker, it is an illustration, Senator Thang'Wa. Mr. Speaker, even if I were to cross over, I will find that there was already a slot on the panel that was allocated to the political party that I'm moving to. So these things are not about us, Mr. Speaker. It doesn't matter where you fall in 4 years' time. What we are saying is we can establish an objective criteria for us to be able to select these individuals who go on the panel to achieve some level of balance, Mr. Speaker. Finally, what I want to assure this House is that all of us, Mr. Speaker, whether you are a religious leader, whether you're a political leader, whatever field you operate in, you have biases, whether you acknowledge them or don't. Mr. Speaker, my party leader likes to say, even the Pope, when given a...
I'm afraid, Senator, your time is up. Senator Kathuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this important motion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I did support the report as it is, the motion which was presented by the majority leader. And Mr. Speaker, looking at the numbers, because what we need today is to get the IBC issue straight from the one go. I would be very happy if we really move away from controversies, because what we are looking ahead of us is the general elections for 2027. And we really need to move together as a team. Let us not be partisan on issues registration, because as the Senator of Nairobi has said, this is not about the parties which participated in the 2022 elections. It's about the future. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. Even at the moment, I can see a lot of movements and a lot of handshakes here and there. So let us register it for posterity. And it is good that whatever came even actually from the National Assembly, I will be very happy to support it. So that as we are saying, we want to move together the two houses, we can start showing that magnanimity. Because I know also that committee sat and the allocations they have given the slots to various prayers, especially to the Inter-Religious Council of Kenya, the two slots, because we have diversity in our religious organizations. And also there's the Parliamentary Service Commission. I'm happy that they are specifying that one nominee should come from the minority side and another one from the majority side. That is being fair. Last time we had 4, and there was no specification on how those 4 could be shared. So I think the report from the National Assembly, I think is a bit fair. And also when you look also at the political parties council, those are small parties, let us say majority and minority in that council, because actually the players in this council are the small parties, some represented in the parliament and others which did not get any slot. So it is important also to move with them. Last time, Jubilee Party was the majority and it had so many members of parliament. Last elections, Jubilee Party is has almost 20 members. So you don't know which party will be majority tomorrow, which will be a small party tomorrow. Because I can see that party, maybe the next elections, it might get even 5 or so members. So let us really register it for posterity so that we can get this record straight. I'll be very happy even during the voting, this will be anonymous decision, which will be made by this House when we come to making decision after both the second reading and the committee stage in the afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Maanza Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very, very important piece of legislation. Mr. Speaker, you realize what is being amended, as has been quoted, is different. It was 2 men and 2 women nominated by Parliamentary Service Commission, 1 person nominated by Law Society of Kenya, 2 persons nominated by the Inter-Religious Council of Kenya. And now this has been expanded and improved to what now you have as an amendment. Mr. Speaker, the Electoral Commission is a very, very important commission in Kenya. This is the selection panel, which if is biased from beginning, then it's likely to be biased all the way. But it has a lot of checks and balances on its path, from the selection to the matter coming again to Parliament and the proceeding back for the appointments. Mr. Speaker, when an electoral commission, for whatever reason, seems to be biased is likely to affect the stability of the nation. For example, recent allegations that possibly the chairman of the Electoral Commission could be assassinated, you know where the country is left if an eventuality like that was to happen in the future. First of all, it means there's no one to announce the results. And therefore, this matter, having these amendments, and our committee having improved on what the National Assembly has done, then it means the matter must now then proceed for mediation in one way or another. The whole idea is we should legislate for the future, for posterity, and for the future nation, for the future people of Kenya, many years to come. We should not legislate for purposes of the current government, or sometimes we may make legislation thinking it is for you, only for a new person or new government to benefit in that legislation. And that has happened before. When you are trying to make the constitution, some people want to make a constitution which is tailor-made for them, only to realize it is against them the next day. And for that matter, we must be seen to be fair. And I believe all these appointments can be skewed. What we need is higher moral authority by the people who will be dealing with this, so that there's no state interference at all. There's no interference from whatever part of the people, and that the people, for example, representing the religion, then one should be a Christian and the other one a Muslim, so that you balance the religious shades of opinion in the country. And I believe when you deal with the Public Service Commission, there is something positive about, very critical, in that it represents us as the two houses. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, these amendments can be made better. Nothing at this stage closes any further amendments. And I believe also we mean well for the nation, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I support the amendments as they are now, and I'm still going to continue consulting so that we can see whether we can improve this before we close this particular session, so that, Mr. Speaker, we can make something good for the nation. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Seki Lenku.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support to this motion. It's a very important motion that has come. The Electoral and Boundaries Commission is a very important commission that determine the future of this country, as we have really witnessed. And I want to really support this motion by saying that we need to approve. We need to support it as it is. The amendments are quite in order. And I want to support that the clause on the Public Service